All right, well, we will go ahead and kick things off. It is great to see many of you, and this one is a special meeting tonight. You may have remembered, I'm trying to think, Mark, you may recall, it was, I think, our last in-person meeting in early 2020, and we had Mark from the Green Panel come in and talk to us about solar. And he gave such a great presentation. He totally moved Steve and Janet, and they installed a system. So here we are. What has it been, about a year, Steve and Janet, that you've had?
It's been 17 months now, actually.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to spend most of today talking about, is Steve walking us through their experience with living with solar and kind of how it works. It's a great presentation. He's been giving it to many different groups and really just helps take the mystery and the complicatedness, I guess, out of it and really make it digestible. So I'll hand it over to Steve, and after that, we're going to talk a little bit about some holiday waste reduction tips, provide a few updates on some different projects, and then, of course, want to talk a little bit about 2022 and where we're going and kind of moving things forward. Please mute, and we will have some question segments, so you can jump off of mute at that time to chime in with any. All right, Steve, take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to share the experiences that my wife and I have had with a residential solar panel and battery system. And we've had it for about 17 months now. And I originally made this presentation because I've been working with Michigan United to help get a bill out of the Energy Committee in the state of Michigan and onto the House floor to be voted on and hopefully become a law. Right now, there's a law that was passed in 2008 that limits the number of small solar panel installations at a distributed generation of 1%, which benefits electric companies. HB 4236 would eliminate this cap, which would serve the interests of the people. And here's why I support the passage of HB 4236 in two charts. This is my household electrical usage on a daily basis every day for the last 17 months. And each day represents 100% of usage. What you see in blue is what we still get from DTE. Everything you see in gold or green, we're getting from either the solar panels or from the battery that is charged up by the solar panels. And then the other chart, you can see we've been in the house 5 years now, and our monthly bills were about $93 a month in 2018, $103 in 2019, and $126 in 2020 pre-solar. We had the system installed in July of 2020. And now our average electrical bill since the installation is about $34. So that's $92 less per month. And we'll come back and look at both of these charts a little bit later. So just a little background, my wife and I have always been interested in energy conservation and renewable energy. When we got married back in the 80s, we subscribed to the magazine New Shelter. We owned a Prius hybrid for about 10 years. When we sold it, we bought a Prius Prime plug-in hybrid, which on a full charge can drive all electric for the first 25 to 30 miles. Our house was built in December 2016. The solar system was installed in July 2020. The back of the house faces due south. There's no sources of shade, making it an excellent candidate for solar energy production. Our system was installed by the Green Panel Company. It consists of 16 330-watt solar panels. So that's 16 times 330 watts. That's 5.28 kilowatts of peak power. So under ideal circumstances, the panels could produce 5.28 kilowatts of power. And then we've got a Tesla Powerwall 2 battery with a capacity of 13.5 kilowatt hours of energy. So I've introduced a couple of terms here. I want to give some definitions. Electrical power or electricity is the flow of electrons through a circuit. Voltage is like water pressure, and current is like water flow. Voltage times current equals watts. 1,000 watts is 1 kilowatt. And then similarly, this battery is like electrical pressure. the current flows through the circuit when the light gets turned on, and then that gives you electricity or power in watts. Electrical energy is power times a period of time. So a kilowatt hour is the number of kilowatts consumed or generated in 1 hour. And I've got a couple examples here. If you have a 100-watt light bulb and you turn it on for 10 hours, that's 1,000 watt hours or 1 kilowatt hour. Similarly, if you have 10 100-watt light bulbs, it totals 1,000 watts. You turn them on for 1 hour, that's also 1,000 watt hours or 1 kilowatt hour. The Tesla battery offers a lot more than just providing energy when the sun isn't shining. It has a great app with a lot of valuable information, and it lets me track energy consumption and production. So this screenshot is just a snapshot in time. The sun is shining on the solar panels, and almost magically, the solar panels are producing 3.8 kilowatts of electricity. Our house needed 2.4 kilowatts, and that's kind of high. I'm sure we had our plug-in hybrid plugged in at this time, but it met all the needs of the house and the car. And then the excess went to the Powerwall battery, and it'll continue to charge the Powerwall battery till it gets to 100%. And then if we are producing any excess electricity, it goes out to the grid, and DTE makes use of that electricity and sells it to other people. These energy usage screens are all from one day, August 15th. What you see in blue is home usage. So you can see where we plugged in the car here and here, and when we turned the oven on for dinner. And we used 18.8 kilowatt hours that day. We produced 23.8 kilowatt hours, 5 kilowatt hours more. And you can see how the day started, at midnight. The Powerwall battery provided the house with all of its electrical needs. And then the sun came up and provided the house with its electrical needs and charged the Powerwall battery till the battery got to 100%. And then the excess electricity that the solar panels were producing went out onto the grid. And then as the sun went down, you can see in the evening, the Powerwall battery again provided the house with our electrical needs. So on this DTE chart, there's nothing above zero. We did not draw any electricity from DTE on this day. It's what we call a grid-free day. And then here's those 4 charts overlaid, so it might make a little more sense. You can see how the Powerwall battery provided our electrical needs, and then the sun came up, charged up the battery, electricity went out to the grid, and then the Powerwall provided us with the electrical needs after the sun went down. And we actually produced 26% more electricity on that day than what our house needed. And 52% of our electricity came from the solar panels directly, and 48% came from the Powerwall, which is basically from the solar panels indirectly, since the Powerwall is charged from the solar panels. So here's that chart again. Anything in blue is still from DTE. And you can see we still rely on them a lot in November, December, and January. But anything in gold is from the solar panels. Anything in green is from the battery. And then this is that same information, but charted a little differently. Instead of each day being 100% of the household electrical usage, we're actually looking at the kilowatt hours now. So our house uses anywhere from maybe 8 kilowatt hours a day to as much as 45 kilowatt hours a day. And again, blue is what we still get from DTE. Gold is from the solar panels. Green is from the battery. And now you can see anything below zero in light blue. This is all the electricity that goes back out on the grid, where there used to be what they call net metering, where every 1 unit of energy we put out on the grid, DTE would give us 1 unit of energy back. But there was a law put into effect, and there's a convoluted formula. And I think it pretty much amounts to we have to put 3 units of energy out on the grid to get 1 back. And then this is just daily solar production in gold. And then the green is a 30-day average. So you can see it's very seasonal. And then back to the money we've been saving, about $92 a month on average so far. In September, we got a $25 reliability credit because our power had gone out for a while. So that actually paid our entire September bill and part of our October bill. And then one of the really neat things is the Tesla battery can act as a home backup generator. Since it's connected to the internet, it actually knows when a storm is coming. And as I mentioned, the battery is normally only charged from the solar panels, except when there's a storm coming. Then the grid will charge the battery to 100% and hold it there until the storm passes. During a power outage, the battery provides energy to a sub panel, just like a home generator, but without the moving parts, annual maintenance, or use of fossil fuels. And you can see we had that big storm the end of July. We were without power from DTE for 45 hours, but between the battery and the solar panels, we still had electricity here. So my wife and I enjoy the many days we're off the grid. We're glad that we supported a local renewable energy business and are reducing our impact on the environment. We expect the financial payback to be between 9 and 12 years. We would like other people in Michigan to have the same opportunity we've had. That's why HB 4236 should be passed to remove the 1% cap. And there's a place in Michigan, Houghton, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula, that's actually already hit that 1% cap. So that means the next homeowner who would like to have solar panels put on their house in Houghton, Michigan, they won't be able to do that because it'll be against the law because of this law that was passed in 2008. So the Republican state representative for that region, Representative Markinen, has drafted this bill, and he has two Democratic state representative co-sponsors. So I've given a shorter version of this presentation at 2 Michigan United town halls and 1 Michigan United press conference. We're trying to put pressure on Representative Joe Bellino, who chairs the Energy Committee. He has not moved this out of committee. So we would like to see this moved out of committee and to the House floor and to see it passed into law. And I've got a website here. I'll put this link in the chat. And if you're interested, you can go to that website and you can see all of the people who are on the committee. I've emailed all of them and I got responses from some of them. And I've just asked them to please vote this out of committee and let's pass this law, remove that 1% cap, because renewable energy is not going away anytime soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. So what questions do you have for Steve? You can just feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like.
Tiffany, just for people who might be considering this, besides the fact that we're trying to get the law to change and everything, but people who might be considering having this on their roof. I mean, before we got into this, I just thought that if you wanted to have solar panels and you had the money to put solar panels on, you just went ahead and put solar panels on. I didn't know all the stuff behind the scenes that you have to do. And you can't just put up as many solar panels as you want. DTE tells you how many you're allowed to have. So they look at your bills over time and they determine that you could put, I think it's somewhere around 80% of what you need is allowed to be put on your roof. So like if we were to get a fully electric car and want to get a level 2 charger instead of the just regular 110 that we have right now, we would have to go back and request that we have more solar panels or whatever put on the roof so we could, because we're going to have a greater need, and they would probably approve it. But I just always thought that was kind of weird that, I mean, what if I want to have 100% of my energy coming from my solar panels? So if I had enough money and I wanted to put that many solar panels up there and have 3 power walls in the basement, that seemed like it should be something that I should be allowed to do as an individual homeowner. I'm not hurting anybody. I mean, I'm hurting DTE maybe, but I'm not hurting anybody, and I am helping the planet and everything, but you know, you can't do that. That's one of the things to consider. The other thing is that when you go to put these things on your roof, they always talk to you about first making sure, well, how old is your roof? Because if your roof needs to be replaced, get your shingles or whatever replaced first. because, to get your shingles replaced after you have the solar panels on is obviously going to be more expensive because they got to take everything off. But our setup that Mark's company put in, we've been very, very happy with it. And we didn't even know about that storm watch thing. We just, all of a sudden, Steve got a notification on his phone because you know how connected he is. And it said, we're charging the battery. And he's like, what? I didn't tell it to do that. And because if the power goes out, they shut down power connecting you to the grid at all. Because when they're replacing the wires or fixing whatever is broken, when the power goes out, they don't want to be electrocuted because you're producing solar energy, so they cut you off. But we were, after that big storm where we had so many downed trees in this area, it was horrible. Between the solar panels, the next day, the sun came out, it was just pure blue sky for like 3 days after the storm. And every day we got all of our energy during the day from the solar panels, and it completely charged the battery 100%. So all the essential stuff that you need was there. And meanwhile, we had to sit and listen to our neighbors have their whole house generators and how noisy it was and everything. And we didn't have that, and it was wonderful.
So quick question. I've been familiar for a couple of years on the bill you had mentioned, Steve, regarding the cap. But the one you just mentioned, Janet, or not the bill, but the issue of kind of the 80%, I was not aware of that. Do you know if there's any legislation addressing that, or is right now the 1% still kind of the focus?
It's actually, they limit you to 100%. Okay, we can make up to 100%. However, we don't recommend that because we're trying to minimize what gets sent back to them. And so that's why we use the battery. And so they're very sticky about it. You got to be at 100% or less of your previous year's usage, or they just won't let you do it. And they've been real stinky also because they've come back at us twice now out of the blue and said, well, you can't put this much solar on your roof because you got a battery and the battery's supplying power just like the solar. And we're like, what? And number one, it's behind the meter. It's none of their business. Right. And number two, who would want to send more power back to them for what they're paying for it? So there's some things going on now is regarding how they're treating people. And we actually have one commercial customer that was a large system. It's been over a year now, and they still don't have their interconnection because every month they send them a new list of things they have to supply. And that's got to stop. So, and that's mostly DTE that's doing it. So there's going to be some, I don't think, there may be a bill, but the MPSC is definitely alerted to it. So we fight through those things. But it was mentioned that, if you get an all-electric car, you could add on panels. And we try to make that very easy. So if they wanted to add more panels, they have AC microinverters on them. It's very easy just to put some more up there if you've got room. And one little other small fact you might find interesting is, say you're paying about 18 cents a kilowatt hour probably for your power. So you send some power back to DTE and they're going to pay you 8 or 7, somewhere in there. And we say we're going to send the power back to DTE. That's not what happens. Power goes to the nearest source that uses it or needs it. So guess where it goes? To your next door neighbor. So they're paying you 8 cents and then your neighbor pays 18 cents for it right after you send it to them. So we're trying to get away from that. And one of the other pieces of legislation we're trying to go after is to go back to closer to net metering where they pay you retail rate or close to it.
Thank you, Mark. Connie, I see your hand is up. Did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I noticed that that 4286, we wrote a script for that and everything with all the phone numbers and what to say and background information on that bill. 4286, is it?
4236.
4236, yeah. And I can put the link in the chat, but it's also on the Indivisible Huron Valley Take Action website. So, but it's kind of at the bottom. but it has everybody to call, and it has a sample of what you can say. It has references so that you can check the accuracy of the background information, and a whole bunch of background information on explaining the bill. So I put the link on the chat if anybody wants to advocate for that. That's what you got to do. You got to call them and let them know you want it. And it is still in committee. As long as it's still in committee, we can advocate to at least move it out.
Thank you, Connie.
Linda.
So I have a question. I'm looking at both sides of the issue. Does DTE have concerns because of their wanting to limit how many panels can be put on your house, that if enough people start going into solar, alternative clean energy, it's going to really impact their ability and pricing to deliver energy, because less people now are paying them for service? How, if you were to play this out on their side, how much is it really going to impact them? Are they going to now have to charge more because they have less customers? And are those people then relying on electric energy from DTE because they can't afford solar? Are their prices going to go up? So I'm just trying to look at the other side of this.
Their prices have gone up 22.7% in the past 5 years. So their rates are going up regardless of whether people are installing solar panels or not. And I think our electrical usage is probably increasing. So some of that increase might be offset by solar panel installations, but I suspect DTE and consumers and UPCO and the Upper Peninsula will all still have plenty of customers buying their electricity.
I know that that one of the things that I have read about that is a concern for the future is that, like Steve said, everybody's electric usage is going to go up. The more electric cars we have, which they're, you look at GM and other manufacturing companies, they're all going, putting all their money on electric. People are going to be using a lot more electricity in their homes as they go towards electric cars and everything in the future. So we are all going to be consuming more electricity. And the thing I was watching was talking about how are we going to provide that if we're burning fossil fuels, or how are we going to come up with that? And so this would actually perhaps alleviate some of the additional stuff that the whole world is going to be needing.
We agree. I think we need the wind and the sun. So my other question is there a court case? Can they really do what they are doing? Do they have that right? What gives them the right to tell any homeowner how to build their house and what kind of energy, or, if they want to put up windmills or solar panels? Has anybody tested this in the courts?
Only in terms of their being slow to do the paperwork and let you interconnect with them. I don't think there's anything beyond that. What we rely on is the MPSC. So the Michigan Public Service Commission controls them, or supposedly does. And they set the rates, and there's a 2-year process to change the rates that they go through, and everybody makes their case. And in the end, the MPSC makes a decision, and there's a decision in a court there. But there is nothing like what you're talking about. I think, going back to the utility companies, what they say their fear is it'll the solar, and by 2035, they're saying that we could be completely renewable energy if we keep going like we're going. What they're saying, it destabilizes the grid. And of course, I'm thinking, gee, it's stable now with all the blackouts. And then the other thing is they say it's not fair to lower income people. But the truth is they have a business plan, and their business plan makes money off of how they do things now, which is large power plants a long ways away, which sends power all over the place. The future is microgrids and community solar, where most of the power is made nearby. And it's sun and it's batteries and all the things that we're starting to use now. And so at that point, these utility companies have to change their business plan or die, basically, because they're not going to be supplying power. They're going to be more like traffic cops deciding who's producing power and where it's going to go. So in Michigan, the utility companies, the big ones, are really fighting that. The little ones, like up in UP, they kind of like it because it's helping them out. But there are utilities in other states that have already started to go this way. So it is the future, and it's going to happen no matter who tries to stop it.
I got a question. What's the lifespan of the solar panels? How many years of use can you get out of the whole system?
I think they've got a 25-year warranty. And I don't think they can degrade more than 10% in those 25 years. And they'll probably produce electricity, for 30, 35 years.
That's pretty good.
It's nice, no moving parts.
Yeah.
Jeff, did you have a question or comment?
An average bathroom remodel costs about $15,000 right now, and a typical kitchen's at least $50,000. You don't see a payback on that until you sell your home. And then the longer you wait, the less value there is. Now with your solar panels, you seem to be seeing an instant payback.
Yep.
That after the first month. And then you said payoffs out 9 to 12 years. Not knowing what the cost of your panels were, I got to assume it's between the cost of a bathroom and a kitchen renovation. And you see a much quicker payback on solar panels. For people who are looking to maybe upgrade their home, this seems like a better upgrade than a typical kitchen, bathroom.
So I'll say that the cost was in the high $20,000 range, but then we got a 26% federal tax credit, which put it into the low $20,000 range. So it's not inexpensive, but we thought we could definitely make a financial case. Yes, there's the idea of wanting to be independent or less reliant on the electrical company. There's the idea of being green. The fact that we had a plug-in hybrid, and people will say, well, how green is an EV or a plug-in hybrid if the electricity that charges that battery comes from a coal burning plant, for example? Well, we're driving that car on photons from the sun, right? When that sun's shining on the solar panels and the solar panels are charging our car battery, we drive for 25 or 30 miles from the sun, and it just kind of closed the loop. So we just kind of liked it from that philosophical perspective. But yeah, the cost of electricity is going up. The cost of these systems is coming down. They're especially popular in the Upper Peninsula, where they have to rely on UPCO for their electricity. And those electrical rates are much higher than what we have with consumers or DTE, which is why they've already hit that 1% cap.
A good chunk of that 20-something thousand was the battery. So people who just get the solar panels, it's not super expensive, but I would highly recommend that people invest in the battery too. But the battery, I think, if I remember correctly, was $11,000.
Yeah, it was around 10,000.
prepaid.
That's the battery plus the installation. And it's a pretty sophisticated setup.
It's a pretty interesting statistic that before they got rid of net metering, there was almost no batteries. And after they got rid of it and went to the current system, almost 90% of our customers take a battery. So it's kind of like prohibition. If people want it, they're going to get around and find a way to do it.
Linda, did you have another question or comment?
Yeah, I think you're kind of discussing it a little bit now. Like Steve, how many years do you think it'll take you to recoup your initial investment?
If it were solar panels only, probably about 9 years, but with the battery, it'll take a little longer. And it's just a rough estimate, probably around 12 years. And we might not be here in this house 12 years, but when we sell it, that's going to add to the value of this house when we sell it.
And it's going to keep whoever moves into this house after we're done with it, it's going to allow them to be more green and not be using up the Earth's resources at a high degree also. We just love it. It's a game for us. I come home, I want to go plug in my car, like we come home at night or something like that. I'm going to go plug in my car. Well, the sun is setting. What does it look like tomorrow? Oh, it's going to be sunny tomorrow. Let's wait till tomorrow. We'll get up as soon as the sun comes up. We'll plug the car in. Okay, so that we can, and we play a game. So we are doing, we seriously look at everything and try to figure out how can we make this extend the best, like, I mean, even to the point of like, we were like, oh, can we grill outside, and not use the electricity to heat up the oven? Or if I'm going to do baking or something like that, don't do it in the evening, do it in the day when the sun is shining. Because like Steve will say, we've already got the battery up at 100%. We've got everything that's going on in the house is taken care of. Do you have anything you have to bake? Do you have to cook anything? Come on, we got to, and we try to do it because the things that use up heat are the things that use up a lot of energy. So I'll say, okay, well, I'll make some muffins or I'll make some zucchini bread or whatever. And I start, and then we have that. And then in the evening, we're not using as much energy once the sun goes down, and we're just sipping it off of the battery to get us through the whole night. We play a game.
Yep. Mark makes a really good point about the old days with net metering, which we never got to experience. The fact that I have to put about 2 or 3 units of energy out on the grid to get one back was part of the reason I wanted to get the battery and be a little stingy with the electricity I'm making and make sure that I'm using all of it that I can for us. I'm really glad we got the battery because it does act as a backup generator. And it is nice to know that if it got charged during the day and the sun goes down, if you just get solar panels, the sun goes down, you're back on DTE again. If you get solar panels and a battery, if that battery's charged up, it's going to get you through the night. And if it's a sunny day the next day, we've gone, I think we went 14 days, 12 or 14 days once, completely off the grid. We were off the grid for 6 days just 3 weeks ago. And then all the information that comes with that Tesla app. If we ever have another house built and we get solar panels, I would definitely get at least one Tesla Powerwall 2 battery, maybe 2 of them.
Wonderful. Any last questions for Steve, Janet, or Mark?
Well, I just wanted to say, besides this bill about getting rid of the 1% cap, there's talk, or at least there was talk when Steve was in on these town halls and things like that, to get rid of that, the formula they have and go back to straight net metering, where you put out one, you get one back. And I know that when we were talking with Mark and we were going over this project and everything, DTE had the strange formula. But if you were a consumers at the time when we were talking to Mark, consumers was still doing net metering, but they were in the process of going to the Energy Commission and proposing that they get on that same thing that DTE was on. Mark, is consumers still net metering, or are they on the same thing?
No, yeah, they took one at a time. It's a 2-year process, so they did DTE first, and then consumers. If one gets it, the other gets it. They can't really give it to one and not the other. But the other thing that happened, and it hasn't happened with DTE yet, is consumers did hit the cap. But given the uproar that happened, they've agreed to kind of look the other way and let people still apply to the system, but any day they could just shut it off just like that. So it still needs to be removed. And DTE is probably 3-4 months away from when they'll hit the cap.
Some of the Michigan United press conferences and town halls I was on, we had a conference call once with Representative Bellino's assistant, and his assistant told us that there have been some agreements between the legislature and the electricity companies that they might be willing, rather than completely eliminate the 1% cap. One company was okay with going to 2%. I think another one 6% and another one 12%. So it's kind of kicking the can down the road. But if the best we could do right now is just increase those caps, that would allow companies like the Green Panel to continue to provide solar panels and batteries to people who want them.
This cap only applies to small businesses and residential, right?
Yeah, the cap is not for the big level, it's called level 3 systems, big commercial systems.
Okay.
So, but DTE's been playing this game there where they're supposed to like I told you, our customer has been over a year and they haven't let them interconnect yet. And that's the game they're playing. They just keep coming up with reasons why we'll get to it next month. And they're doing that with multiple people. So there are some lawsuits going on there.
Holly, did you have a question? Did I see your hand go up a little bit ago?
Yeah, I did. Well, you guys might know the answer. It's gonna. You know me. I love solar. I would love to have solar. So I know DTE is not being altruistic, but in their plans, you know, the keeping, you know, not being fair about the exchange of money for energy. But do you know if in their future I mean, how are they going to protect the disadvantaged from picking up those costs if the cap goes up?
There's a lot going on right now for low income to find a way to get more solar on low income housing.
Good. Good.
And that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll take one last question from Sarah.
I don't have a question. So if somebody else has a question, go ahead. I was just going to give some feedback, some input, my own experience.
Yeah.
Give it a second.
Yeah.
Okay. So Steve was so kind to share the information with me over the summer because I have a well. I live out in the country in the township and have a well. And when the power went out, when we got that tornado in July, I had no water. And, you know, either go and get a hotel room because you have no idea how many hours you're going to be without, or send the kids to friends' houses, right, and shower at the gym, which is what we did. It's very inconvenient. And the last thing I want to do is get a generator because that's going to cause further weather problems. If we all throw out more emissions into the air with all of our generators running, things aren't going to get better in the atmosphere, right? So I did not fully listen to Steve. Instead, I saw that the corporation I work for was offering a discount with another company. And so I received an estimate with them. I don't know, Mark, but you sound very knowledgeable in this space. And the gentleman that I was working with lives in Howell and called me the day before our appointment to say he knew that we had an appointment that day, which it wasn't, it was the next day, but he didn't have power. So he just wanted to call and tell me that we would need to reschedule. My first question is, well, why don't you have solar? Why are you telling me you can't help me right now without your electricity, right? That was the first impression. And then he continued to explain to me why he didn't have solar. And even when I was telling him, you know, I'm familiar with some of this equipment and that from, you know, Steve, I wanted the battery, and I was very interested in him quoting me with the battery. And the next day when we talked on the phone, he would not include the battery in the quote for some reason. He insisted that I didn't need the battery. I don't know you, Mark, but I'm going to reiterate, everybody should work with you if they're going to get solar from the other company in the area.
Yeah, there's
That's all.
It's some people are having trouble getting batteries. We've been lucky because when they started coming out, we sold a bunch of them, and you know, it's like anything else. If you do really well, you get more stuff. So we've been able to stay in stock with them. That's they probably just didn't have any available. Did you ever get a system?
I did not. I'm getting garage doors and floors instead.
Okay. Well, if you ever do, we can fix you up.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure.
When you're ready. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Steve, Janet, Mark, for continuing to share your wisdom with us. And we know if you have questions on solar moving forward, we all know who we can reach out to. So thank you again for sharing that today. All right, toss it over to Holly, who's going to talk a little bit about reducing holiday waste.
Thank you guys. That was awesome. I totally appreciate your game playing. I would totally be that. Like, okay, I'm going to run the washer tomorrow and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
That'd be great. So anyway, I just want to remind everybody, some of you were here last year, DIY gifts and all our environmental ideas for Christmas. So if you go to the website, everything's still on there, ecohv.org or .com. And still all the recipes that are tried and true. When you see the recipe, they've actually been done by us. We know they work out for like the lotion or the body scrub or the laundry detergent. Remember that you can recycle your wrapping paper and cards as long as they're not plastic or wax coated or don't have glitter on it. And also the memories, not stuff like park passes, museum passes, also on that website. There's a list of a lot of ideas to give for events or passes to things instead of gifts. And the UPS store in Milford are wonderful. They are actually very happy to take boxes, your Amazon boxes, I think it's up to 16 inches. The paper or plastic envelopes that have, that bubble wrap coating that you kind of don't know what to do with them, they use those, and it's not recycled, it's all just reused. So you skip that energy process. And they do take clean peanuts. They just like them bag and all like uniform, like the same color or something. So currently though, we don't know, the Oakland County hasn't set a Christmas tree drop off for composting. If we find out, we will let you know on Facebook. If anybody knows something, maybe they can let us know. And all this stuff, like I'm looking right here, this holiday waste stats and solution is a great piece to reread for the holidays for yourself. If you go in the sustainable living part of our website, you will see all this stuff. And again, all the recipes for the different ideas of homemade goods are they're tried and true. We haven't just pulled them from the internet and we don't know if they work or not. So they're great. And that's it.
Also, if you have pumpkins or gourds, you can go around to, like today we drove to State Land and I just had a huge bin of pumpkins we grew in our garden. They were starting to go and I hit different places, threw them in the woods, and the animals will eat them over the early winter.
And I just wanted to add, because I will say the first time I walked into the UPS store down by Kroger, because I'd heard about the box thing and I was a little hesitant, and the woman lit up when I said, "Would you like this stuff?" So they're very excited to receive it. So don't feel hesitant or nervous about taking it in.
Yeah, and if you go in and there's a long line, just go to the side and set it down. Like they've told me one time I waited because I was asking them something else, but they thought it was just for the stuff. And they were like, "Don't wait in line, just throw it over here." So, because they're getting busier and busier.
All right, so a couple updates. So Lori, I know some of you on Zoom were at our Bee Garden event last month. If you'd like to share a little bit on that, Lori.
Yep, just want to give a little recap. It was a big success. We thought the weather worked out really great. It rained before and after, but it was good then. We had about 40 people. Kids had fun. We got a few new members. Kids had fun playing cornhole and painting pumpkins and rocks, as you can see. The perennials, we got quite a few, and whatever people didn't take, we just planted right into the garden. We gave away lots of samples of eco-friendly products for people to try. And we collected a ton of styrofoam and plastic bags that will be repurposed to make mats. And speaking of mats, one of our members, Michelle Avalone, did a demonstration at the event on making mats for the homeless out of plastic grocery bags. And people seem really interested in it. And if you'd like to help, there's a group called Crochet for a Cause that meets at St. George's Church. It's on Commerce Road, east of Main in Milford. They meet the first and third Wednesday of the month, which is this Wednesday coming up, from 1 to 3. All are welcome. You have to know how to crochet, but it's helpful if you do. They can always use that. But they also need people to fold and cut and loop the bags to make the plarn, which is plastic yarn. And then it'll be crocheted into the mats. They asked me to tell you that please wear a mask inside the church. Oh, and if you can't attend, but you wanted to work on the mats at home, once you learn what to do, you can just drop the work off during the church hours, which is Tuesday and Thursday and Friday from 9 to 4. They can always use more plastic bags, especially they like the colored ones. Like I know sometimes you get if you live in the city or whatever, get newspapers in the colored bags, plastic bags. They like those, add a little color to the mats. There's a video on YouTube. It's called How to Make a Plarn Bedroll. Plarn is plastic yarn, if I didn't say that before. I'll share that on our Facebook page again. And if you want any more information, you can send a Facebook message to Carolyn Liebau, I think is how you say her name. She's the person at the church who's in charge of all this. A lot of people have expressed interest in planting another garden or maybe 2 in the spring. Alan from Hebner Canoe, he's the one whose property the bee garden is on. He wanted to know if we wanted to add on to the existing one, make it bigger. And Dana Hebner, who is, I think, their niece and nephew, I'm not sure, and her family, their house overlooks the garden, and they sent us emails saying how much they loved it. They said the deer and the owls and the turkeys go out there and they just love watching them. If we do decide to do this in the spring, if we decide we want to make some more, we'll need help. We have the one in Milford right now. We'd like to have one maybe in Commerce or Highland or someplace like that, you know, kind of spread it around so more people can help. If we do decide to do those, we'll need volunteers to help dig the gardens up, till them and stuff, and then plant whatever. And then whatever plants we don't, you know, members can come and plant. Whatever they don't plant, we'll just seed the rest. That's what we did this year. And that's it.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to quickly touch on, you probably saw in the recent email, but we're exploring kicking off a program called Wilderness Warriors. And the thought is to try, and these would be all family-friendly activities. So not that you have to have kids to join by any means, but that the content would be digestible for youth, that you would tie it together with maybe there's someone that talks about the importance of protecting watershed. And then afterwards, we would go for a canoe ride down the Huron River. So things like that. If you're interested in learning more, if you have your phone and hold it up to the screen, you should be able to put it on the photo app and do a scan, and then it'll launch you to a form to fill out just to gauge interest, and we'll see if that's something worth moving forward.
Tiff, there's
Yeah.
there's one more thing I wanted to add before I forget. We're looking for people. I said we're looking for places to plant the gardens. We would love it if some members could check that out, you know, get the information stuff, kind of scout out and get back to us. Let us know if you find any place. Sorry, go ahead. Carry on.
No problem. I think it's back to Jeff.
Okay.
Last winter, one of our members, Lauren, she arranged a cleanup around Highland Rec area. You see the group we had there, we picked up a lot of garbage, and it was actually kind of fun because even though it was during COVID, we're all outside, separated from each other. It was a pretty good time, even in the cold, damp weather. A lot of people did show up. We'd like to do one or two more of those over the winter. We just need a member to come up with an area they want cleaned up and let us know, and we can put the information on the website to where to meet, time, and things. But it's helpful if some of the members can pick an area from around them that they think needs cleaning up, and we will help them clean up. This was a lot of things we do. If a member can bring us with ideas to us, as a group, we can get something done, but we need some input from the members.
Which kicks off our final discussion with 2022 planning, Holly. And I know a lot of people have, or a lot of the different speakers have said, hey, if you have ideas and things like that. So just in terms of how to get us ideas, you're welcome to put them in the chat tonight. Raise your hand and speak up if you'd like. Put them in the chat. You can always reach us through Facebook. As well, just a private message there, or any of the emails that I send out to the group, you are able to get, you can just email back to me, that'll go to me as well.
You know, every so often we ask everyone to have, you know, input and tell us what direction you'd like us to go or ideas you've been thinking about. For example, like Jeff said, the cleanup, which is a very doable project for someone to do because you pretty much pick time, place, and day, and then we, you know, call out to the membership. If you have a speaker that you know that you would love to invite, you know, to come be our educational guest speaker, like how we knew Steve come, we would love that too. And like to start it off for me, I've been thinking a lot lately about how much not eating meat means to me. That's why I became a vegetarian 23 years ago for environmental reasons. So like I've been thinking, if I think people would be interested about writing a piece for our website, like once a month, that explains some advantages for the earth of not eating meat and easy recipes, maybe like vegan ease, to show that it's not as big a deal as some people think. And so it's really great to be part of this group, you know, where it's like-minded and you know that you're going to be supported with your ideas. So like it says there, let us help make your environmental idea in action. So with that, I'd like to open it up. If anybody has something they've been thinking about, you know, or an idea, just share with us.
And just to add to that, this isn't going to be one of those, Sarah raises her hand and says, I think we should do town recycling. And we're like, all right, go get them, Sarah. That this is really something that, we've kind of like the bee garden and the cleanups. And there was the Christmas tree pickup last year and the year before that. So those are all things driven by members, kind of where their passion is, that we rally a group together to get. And, nobody's going to be on their own with it, but really finding things that are important to you. And I think I saw eliminate sale of plastic bottles from Linda. So we actually, EcoHV is a member of the Great Lakes Plastic Pollution Solution Coalition. So there will definitely be some activities and efforts moving forward that we will reach out and ask for everyone's help with. But Linda, I will definitely keep you in the loop on that for sure. Yes.
Yeah, I attended a very interesting educational program. I'm a member of the climate team, the climate reality project that Al Gore started, and they do a lot of education. And there was a wonderful speaker, and maybe we could find someone that could address this. And I never thought about this. All the water that goes into water bottle sales takes the water that is a resource to people and takes it out of their ability to resource water and goes to those of us or whoever that we have clean water. We don't have to worry about running water out of our tap. But there are many places around the world that don't have the water. And so by us bottling the water, we're actually eliminating and taking resources from the earth. And I never thought it from that aspect. And then, of course, there's the plastic itself and how damaging that is for the environment. And I think there are cities around the country that have legislature against the sale of bottled water. That's something we could look into.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then I see another comment about the additional locations for bee gardens. So thank you, Miles. What else are people thinking?
I just want to chime in again. If it comes up, not tonight or just, anytime in the future with the guest speaker, because it really gets a good meeting turnout when we have education, and then we can also plan our, projects and get that input. It's nice to reach out to see what other kind of ideas and speakers people know.
I think I mentioned this when I came and did a presentation, but if you get a minute, really go out and go onto YouTube and look up Tony Seba, S-E-B-A, and look for his latest presentation, which I think is October. And he's a guy that kind of tells where he thinks we're all going in the future. He's been very accurate so far regarding solar and electric vehicles for the past, I think he started 6 years ago, and he's pretty much dead on. But what he's predicting is pretty revolutionary, and it's something to watch.
Great, thank you. Any other thoughts or comments for the evening?
Yeah, I would just like to state for the record that this is not one-use plastic. I have filled this bottle up hundreds of times. So I don't want anyone thinking that I just, drank the water out of this once and threw it away.
We do the same thing. Ellie and I said we're going to write it on this. I've used this a million times.
Just because you have solar panels doesn't mean you can let
Yep.
Very good.
We actually never buy bottled water. We had that boil water. I don't know if it affected Milford.
I think so.
No, you didn't have that? Okay, so we had boil water thing because there was a water main break. Where was the water main break, Steve?
I don't know, like 14 Mile in Haggerty, somewhere around
Yeah, and we had it for over a week. And I went to Costco and they had a limit of 1 case of water per person, which I was like, really, people? Everybody had a case of water in their basket. And I'm like, you just go home and boil some water, geez, and let it cool overnight, and then you got it for the next day. But yeah, no, we don't do bottled water. Never have.
Yeah,
Steve, I was always told you shouldn't
selling-
refill your water bottle.
You're not
That it
supposed to.
leaches.
Yeah.
Right.
It leaches something.
Yep, plastic.
Yeah.
PFAS in his body. I don't know.
I've got
Definitely
this one
don't
too.
Freeze it. You're not supposed to freeze the water in your
Never knew that.
reuse it.
We don't ever buy it, so
And we just have, like you said, the old bottles from years ago. We just keep reusing.
Yep.
But they say that water companies don't sell bottled water. They just sell plastic bottles.
Yeah.
So,
I don't have a recommendation for anything, but I do want to say that over at Sarah's house, when we had the meeting one time with the people from the retired person from the EPA.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my God, that made such an impact on me. He was so good. That whole presentation was fantastic.
mhm.
Well, I will pass that along. Thank you for that. Holly, did you have anything else on this one to share?
No, thank you for all your input. And like, contact us if something hits you in the middle of the night.
Okay.
Like your grandkids.
Let's give Holly's contact information.
So,
Linda?
just one other thing while we're talking about plastics. Think about plastic Ziplocs and all the plastics that we use
Right.
when you go to the market and you buy tomatoes or whatever, you put it in plastic. I'm trying to eliminate all my Ziplocs and plastic containers. My daughter's got me buying something that's made out of silicone, a more natural product. And so that's something else, that we should all be concerned about.
I think all that's on our website too, right? The beeswax wrap instead of.
The beeswax wrap is, and I just bought a package of compostable Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
Sarah, are they green colored?
They're green and you can wash them out and reuse them and reuse them and reuse them.
That's
And then
my
we'll compost
sister-
them when we're done.
Yeah, my sister-in-law, she lives out in New York, and when I was there, she had them, and I used one. I brought it home and I washed it out and reused it. I don't know how many times until it finally ripped. But yeah,
we use
they're
all
pretty
glass. IKEA has a great selection of glass,
We do.
like storage containers with bamboo lids. We don't use any plastic wrap or anything like that.
And you can recycle. Don't forget, for the stuff you do have in the house, rip off the zippy part. You can recycle the bag and all that stuff at Kroger. With the
You
plastic
have to
bag.
rip off the
Really?
part?
I rip off that thick line.
No, we
if
don't.
there's some, and then, because
You know,
then the
I
rest is
just
like
say-
a bread bag.
People
They
should
just
really
want the
look
part,
at
they
their,
just want the plastic film part.
Stretchy,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
so I started looking very closely at everything, like anything I buy that comes in a bag, like the, the bag that holds, that wraps around a head of lettuce, maybe even, but other just regular plastic bags. And if you look very closely, if you look on a lot of them have a little recycle and they have the 4. So those are the ones that you can take and drop off with plastic bags at Kroger. And I never drop off the plastic bags there because they're used for mats and everything, right? That the crochet mats and everything. But all that other stuff, like, if you buy the chopped salad bags or anything like that,
Yep.
a lot of those things they have the number 4 on them. Just take them to Kroger.
Yeah, they actually don't have to have the number on them. So even like inside like cereal boxes, that plastic, the trick is it has to be single layer. And then when you try to rip it, it should like stretch, not crinkle like a chip bag. And then you're able to do it in-store drop-off, not in your at-home recycle bin, but it must be the store drop-off. So.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. As a reminder, we are off for December. Please keep in mind the holiday ideas that Holly had shared. We do have those on the website. And again, if you're using eco-friendly products, visit that on the website as well, but also let us know if there's something you are a fan of, and we will add it to that sheet because we've heard a few things tonight and we don't want to just put anything on there. We want to put stuff that we know members have tried and actually would endorse. So thank you. We'll see you back the third Monday in January, the 17th. And the other thought, I guess, I don't know if we mentioned tonight, was just in terms of a place. So we're on Zoom right now. We were trying to meet a little bit during summer and fall outdoors, spring, but with it being cold, we'll probably be on Zoom unless someone has a pole barn or something that we can share and be nice and socially distanced throughout the winter months. So if you have thoughts on that, please let us know as well.
Doesn't
So-
even need to have heat.
Yeah. We're environmental folk. We can press for it. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a safe and wonderful holiday and Happy New Year, and we'll see you back in January.
Have a great
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.